So today I wanted to have a chat with you guys about on the topic of what happy couples know. So what do happy couples know that everyone needs to know, let's just say. All right. So today I'm going to share with you three different things that are three different rules. Well, I don't like the word rules. Three different, let's just say rules that happy couples live by. So maybe some of these things, only one is getting done, two or three in happy relationships. So if that's you, hey, why not add one of these additional rules or things to your relationship to make it even better? All right. So I could probably come up with a huge laundry list of these, super long list of what happy couples do and maybe don't do also, but we're going to start with three today. Maybe I'll do more of these. I could do a part 2, part 3, part 4, who knows? We'll go with it. So let me know if you're watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like this topic, if you find this interesting, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I will get back to you. So let's start. What do happy couples know? Number one, happy couples know how important it is to acknowledge the other person in the relationship. Like, if ever there is something you want support with, if ever there's anything, any gift that you can give the other person in your relationship, is to acknowledge what they say, acknowledge how they feel, acknowledge what they need from you. So a lot of times when we're struggling or we're arguing or there's a lot of resentment, we can go into autopilot, and as soon as our partner or man says something to us that, might be a bit targeted towards us or kind of blames us, we can often go immediately into defense mode. And I'm saying this from experience too. This is stuff I've done in the past too, right? So you either get really defensive or you turn it around on them. So for example, I'll share with you a recent situation that happened with me and my husband where it would have been easy for me not to acknowledge what was happening. And maybe in the past when we were struggling, I would have gotten into that mode, but from working on the relationship skills and doing the work, learning the techniques and the approaches and turning things around and helping turn things around, because I have to give him credit for that too, right? I no longer do that. So I'm able to stay in the moment and acknowledge him and give him that gift of being heard. And I know as women, that's one of the big things that we desire, right? We want to feel validated. We want to feel heard. So when we do it to our partner, we invite them and we show them how to do this in return for us. So been maybe a couple weeks now, maybe a few months now, actually. My husband came to me and he was like, I notice the light, you always leave the light on in your office and you leave. So this is my office here, my home office, and I have my lights there in front that you can see, and obviously the light on the ceiling. And then apparently he noticed that I would leave the light on and just go elsewhere. And then the light would be on like all day or all night or whatever. And I know a few years ago when we were struggling more in a relationship and we didn't have all these skills and tools, that would have irked me, right? And I would have gone into, number one, probably, defense mode of, it's not that long, or I'm just going to get something and I'm going to come back in 5 minutes, right? Like that would be my immediate response, maybe something like that. Or number two, I might have turned it around on him, right? And said, well, I notice you leave your light on too sometimes, right? So I want to invite you to think back on these situations and conversations where maybe your husband said something to you and you might have taken that approach, right? That is probably one of the ways that we unintentionally do it, probably because we feel like we haven't been acknowledged, or we feel we haven't been heard or validated. Our feelings are just ignored. So we kind of tend to do it too. And it's natural to do this. This isn't about blame, shame, or guilt, right? This is about awareness. So as you start doing the work and practicing, the more you can shift your approach in these situations and really acknowledge the other person. Like nowadays, the way I say it when something like that comes up is, okay, yeah, thank you for sharing that with me. Or I could see how that could be annoying that I leave the lights on. It costs electricity, all sorts of things. Put yourself in the person's shoes on why they might be feeling that way. So first of all, you want to recognize it. Second of all, you want to kind of acknowledge how that might feel or why that might be annoying or whatnot, right? And then you can have the conversation. So maybe it's fair, right? Maybe, he does do that too, or he does things too that, annoy you. In the moment though, you always want to address what the other person is saying and acknowledge that, and then deal with the rest later. All right. So this isn't the moment to start bringing back, other stuff that was done in the past. Really focus on acknowledging. So that's number one. Encourage you to start acknowledging more and watch the magic happen from that. Number two, just make sure that's number two, acceptance. So that is another big one, especially for men, right? They want to feel accepted. That is like one of their male values, something that will like keep them totally, obsessed with you, is when you can accept them, right? That's really going to deepen the bond and make them feel loved in the relationship. And it's funny because for those of you here who are entrepreneurs or maybe into personal development and know the Hormozis, so I guess they celebrated their anniversary not that long ago, and Alex Hormozi posted online some sort of shout out to his wife. And in the shout out, he said something to the effect of, "Thank you for never trying to change me," right? No one likes to be changed. Men don't like to be changed. I know most of us say, no, don't try to change men, or we wouldn't want to. We know logically not to do that, but sometimes we do that unintentionally with the way we say things, with the way we request things, right? So one of the big things that happy couples know is to accept the other person, accept them the way that they are. And sure, maybe there are some things in the relationships that aren't happening the way you'd like it to happen, and you would like something to change, and you're kind of stuck in this position like, okay, I'm not supposed to change him, but this isn't working out really good, And in those instances, what I would encourage you to do, and what happy couples know, is that you always want to reinforce the positive. And the more you reinforce the positive and you see the positive, right, the more you're going to experience that, the more you're going to motivate the other person to do it a certain way, right? To show up in a certain way. Obviously, we want to use this for good, right? So this isn't meant as a manipulation thing, right? It's meant to honor and accept, there's going to be parts of the other person that maybe you're not fond of or you want to change. But remember, I say this to women all the time. The more you expect perfection or the other person to be a certain way, the more you're putting that on yourself too, right? Like, I'm glad there are things about my husband that, I would change, quote unquote, right? Because I'm sure there are things he'd want to change about me. And the less I make a big deal about it with him, the less he can make a big deal out of it, right? With me too, right? You remove so much pressure from yourself, right? And you focus on the good things. That's when, again, I'll say it again. That's when the magic happens. That's going to be like the theme for this video today. I'll say it after all three things. So number three, this is the last part I wanted to share with you. Oh yes. So number three, the third rule happy couples live by, third things they do not do, right, is to keep tabs. And it's so funny, I wanted to bring this up because a friend of mine actually shared a reel that she had seen about this whole idea that relationships aren't really 50-50. And actually, I saw Mel Robbins was talking about this recently too, right? And I was like, okay, I need to share about this because it's coming up everywhere for me. And if you haven't heard this yet, I want to, deliver that message to you so you know, right? Because it's so important. In relationships, we're always talking about partnerships and making things even. And there is that expectation, right? Just in society, and even look at it, right? When it comes to divorce, right? Because, and I speak from experience, I am divorced, right? We split things 50-50. So there's this expectation in our minds that everything's 50-50. Now, in certain circumstances, I think 50-50 makes sense. I'm not saying things should never be fair. And actually, I'm like a huge stickler when it comes to fairness. Just ask my husband, right? When it comes to kids, everything has to be fair. But in certain circumstances, in relationships, it's not always going to be 50-50, right? We can't always be expected to contribute 50-50 every single day to every single little thing, right? We are human beings. We have emotions. We have good days. We have not as good days. We get physically tired. We get maybe emotionally tired. And in a lot of cases, right, we might not be able to contribute 50-50. Maybe one of us has to do a little bit more. The other one gets to do a little bit less. Maybe both of us are feeling really low that day. And you guys need, to find another solution for the other remaining, I don't know, let me do math here. 20% can do 20. And then, for the other is 60% or whatnot. So yeah, if you find using numbers is helpful for that, but I see a lot of women too, and there's value in this, right? Coming up with lists of what you do, what he does, and then working through that. And that's actually kind of related to the solution in this case that I would encourage, right? So instead of keeping tabs on one another, I invite you to look at it from more and making sure things are fair and everyone's contributing equally. I encourage you to look at it more as a negotiation, right? Focus less on making everything fair and focus more on negotiating. Focus more on being comfortable expressing your needs and expressing your needs in a loving way and in the way that's most effective of getting the outcome that you desire, right? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people here, right, who can easily say what they want, but they might not be getting what they need, right? And that comes down to the approach, the way we say things, and what motivates another person to step up, right? So again, this also comes back to what I was saying about acceptance too. So the less you are a stickler about making everything 50-50 and fair, the more pressure you remove from yourself too, right? Like every time, it so happens that I cook supper and I'm also stuck doing a little bit of dishes and I start thinking, well, that's not fair. I just remember that my husband vacuumed like 7 days in a row and I hadn't vacuumed, in a while, right? So you take that pressure off of yourself again to not strive for perfection. And instead of striving for perfection, you strive for developing negotiation with your husband and finding common ground and finding a solution. So, let me say it. And that's when you see the magic happen. All right, that's really silly. I don't know why I started saying that today, but I just had to finish that off. So the 3 things, just to recap, that's it for today. Let me see. All right, no live comments. So just remember 3 things that happy couples know or rules that they live by. Number 1, acknowledgement. Acknowledge your husband, your partner, your boyfriend. Number 2, accept them for who they are, right? And number 3, don't keep tabs, right? Learn to negotiate and express your needs instead. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions about that, like I said, leave them in the comments or you can DM me if you're looking for support, if there's any way I can help you with this in your own personal life, if you want to know how to apply this in real life, because great, theory is great. You can watch a million YouTube videos on all of these relationship tips, but nothing is going to change until you actually implement these things and implement them consistently over time, right? So if you want help with that, make sure to reach out. Hope you have a wonderful Wednesday, and I will see you guys in the next Wednesday live chat.